Okay, so today I'm going to focus with you on how to help find our steady ground. While there isn't really any steady ground, we know that the teachings, actually they're called the teachings of fundamental groundlessness, and those are real and long-standing teachings in various traditions. But it's also helpful to know how we, in any one moment, could find the steady ground in which we, as an individual, feel more connected to the earth and to each other and to the traditions that are inspiring our lives. And then we can take action in a skillful way. And I'm saying that we as individuals can do this because only we can plant our own feet on the ground. We cannot plant somebody else's feet on the ground for them. We can inspire them to do it. They can inspire us to do it. But there is a personal responsibility to finding our feet on stable ground. And so we're going to practice with that in mind this afternoon. So please take a comfortable seat and let yourself come in to the here and now. To come into the here and now, you might sift through the mental mayhem and then just sort of set those things aside for now and let your sort of thinking, distractible mind come down to sense actually where are your feet on the ground, even if it's the sides of your ankles because you're sitting in meditation or you're sitting in your yoga readiness posture. So come into contact with those sensations, the ones that tell you this present moment is inviting you to come home to this simplicity. And to bring your thinking mind to these sensations without narrating the sensations, without preferring one sensation over another, without trying to change a sensation. We are practicing simply being with things as they are. So as you notice yourself doing this, that's a second layer of your practice. You're making the effort, and then I like to say, notice yourself noticing. Be aware of yourself observing. And the part of you that can watch you making this effort is like a benevolent fairy godparent, sees you making this effort. Now we'll breathe into those sensations so that your mind, your breath, and your body are all having a shared, unified experience. They are connected. And then please bring your hands together at your heart, and as you do this, try to sense you're bringing together left and right, past and future, resolving the idea of self and other as separate, dissolving the notion that you are somehow separate from the divine or any other thing. And we can chant together, Asatoma Satgamaya. Let's begin. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma satkamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya om asatoma satkamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya om asatoma satkamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya om shanti 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 hari om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. With your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. And release your hands. Open your eyes. We are going to rise up to standing, and you will need one of your blankets where we're going to start. So let me get these cameras sorted through here. There we go. Okay, so one of these blankets that you're going to be using, I'm also going to change my glasses. I don't need these when I'm standing back that far from the computer. So one of our blankets, we're going to roll it. Currently mine are folded because I'm planning on something using the folded blanket for you too. But let's do this, please. Roll it so it is snugly rolled, firmly rolled. You can always decide that you want this to be rolled less thick, so you don't have to use the entire surface of your blanket roll, but I would like you to roll it and then step your feet up onto the blanket so that you're actually standing as if you were a bird on a dowel, but the toes, in this case, need not hold the dowel nor the floor. So this is going to be like a little massage for your feet for a few moments, and it may also stimulate you to think about your balance, where your balance is. So see if you can roll over your ankles, heels down, toes down. It's not necessary to touch the floor on either side of that roll, but I do want you to sense the movement of your feet includes, of course, your ankles, and then it's going to influence your shins, your knees, your thighs, and your hips. Everything will be influenced starting at your feet. So when you're rolling like this, the roll is up to you. The pace is yours. And I'm going to ask you to bend your knees a little bit now and see if you can roll that in such a way as you're also including, when you roll the toes forward, the knees go a little forward. When you roll the heels back, your hips go a little bit back. So just like a little bit of movement that comes into your legs, shins, knees, pelvis, hips. And then see to what extent you could take the arms forward and start sitting down to chair pose. Spread your toes forward so they're not trying to grip the floor. And as you come down into your chair pose, you can have the arms stay just forward if you like, or you can take them up alongside your ears. When you stretch your toes forward, notice the strength you need in the tops of your feet, the fronts of your shins, the back of your calves, your thigh muscles, and right up into your pelvis. And then root down firmly from your hips to your thighs, to your knees, to your shins, to your feet and rise up. And exhale, sweep your arms wide and step slightly backward so that your toes will be on the blanket, but your heels will go down to the floor. And that's where you can choose if you want to keep the blanket rolled as thick as it is right now, or you can unroll it some. You always can make that choice. And as you come down, if you feel like the floor is a little too far away for your hands, you can use your blocks. If your calf muscles are speaking to you, you can say thank you. Okay, so we'll do 3 breath cycles where you inhale through the nose, fill up the torso, the inner body like a parachute, and we are going to exhale and blow out with a little sound, a sound like okay, so breathe in through your nose, please. And then exhale with sound. Again, breathe in through your nose. Exhale. One more. Now bring your hands to your hips, and as you rise up to standing, keep your heels on the ground, your toes on the blanket. And now with the toes on the blanket, inhale, rise up to your tippy toes, sweep your arms up. That is a balance pose. Exhale, lower your heels down. And again, inhale, raise your arms up, tippy toe. I see that I'm out of my own frame, but it's okay. You know where I am. Exhale, this time lower your heels and your arms simultaneously. And one more time, inhale, rise up to your tiptoes. And when you exhale, come down slowly. So what you have is the heels, your arms, your hands, all pacing together to arrive at the bottom of the exhale. Now take the arms forward to come up. And exhale, bend your knees. You're on your toes. Stay on the toes, the toes. You're coming down. Arms forward. This is called toe balance. Coming forward with the arms. Knees. If your knees don't bend as far as they used to, it's okay. Now we're going to be going back up. Root down from your hips, into your thighs, into your knees, shins. Raise your heels, raise your arms. And then exhale, arms wide, and try to lower your heels, your arms, your hands, all together. So this kind of synchronizing has to do with your concentration and your integration of the whole body and the breath and the mind. So steady ground is not just in the feet, it's also in the mind and the integration. You step backwards from your blanket and see how things are feeling. That's good. Okay, great. Now I'm going to ask you to come into downward facing dog pose. We'll put this aside. I'm going to show you as a profile view for me because we're going to play with the feet for a few moments. So step back into your downward facing dog pose. You can measure your dog pose based on your plank pose, please. When you reach back to this downward dog pose, let's bend the right knee deeply and press your left heel down towards the floor. But as you look at your right foot, when you go to bend your knee, raise your heel, bend your knee, stretch the toes of your right foot. And I know that some of you have very flexible toes, so you might not feel this as a stretch on the toes. But try to stretch the arch of your foot. Breathe in. And then exhale, press back with your right thigh, root your right heel without hyperextending your knee, and then bend your left knee deeply and stretch the toes of your left foot.
Press firmly down so the toes actually aren't just sitting there passively, but you can press them down and stretch the arch of your left foot. And now energize your left thigh and take your left heel back towards the floor. It may or may not reach the ground. It is different person to person. Now see if you can do both feet together. Come high up on your toes. Stretch your arches. Bend your knees. And based on your own strength and capacity, you could touch the knees almost down to the floor. And then take your hips and your legs back up to dog pose. It's kind of like what you just did on the blanket with your toe balance and your chair poses. We will do it just one more time. Rise up on your toes and press down with your toes. Stretch your arches. Bend your knees. Decide how far down your body can come this morning, this afternoon. And then raise that back up. Notice the strength that gives you, mental and physical. And then step your feet forward and your hands backwards and come into Uttanasana. And if possible, place your hands under your feet from the front side. It's called Hasta Padasana. So you're actually standing on your palms and your wrists. And of course, not everybody bends as far forward as you see me doing. And this isn't just my yoga practice, it's also my genetics. So within your own practice, your own genetics, bend your knees if you need to, for your hands to be under your feet. And then we're going to slip the hands out, raise your hands to your hips, and rise up to standing.
And let's head into the sun salutation. Okay, so those are your feet today. I'm going to step forward. Let me adjust my camera so that I won't be out of the frame entirely with my head. You guys have heard me say, I think having the head on the mannequins was an important thing for me. My earlier life, when I saw walking the city streets of Boston and I saw the mannequins, they had no heads. in the fashion stores. I thought, no, we have heads, so I'm not going to have that camera frame just, like that. Join your hands together, please. This is for Surya Namaskar. We will do the toe balance pose, but we won't be on the blanket this time. Bring your hands to your heart. And just ask yourself from within, what would it mean for you to have a sense of steadiness in your feet, in your foundation, knowing that the teachings also say there is no solid ground onto which we can hold. These are the teachings called fundamental groundlessness of being. And press down into all 10 toes. Root into your heels so your arches will come up slightly. Just tone the muscles of the legs, please, and root your tailbone gently down. Does not need to be a turbo tuck. Lift the low belly gently in. And as you raise up through your spine, let's begin the Ujjayi breath. Inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, and tippy toe. Now exhale, come down to chair pose so that your heels arrive in chair pose at the end of your exhale. So that is a slow descent of your heels. Then inhale, rise up with your full foot right and left on the floor. And exhale, Uttanasana.
Inhale, glide forward.
Exhale, take your left toes back and momentarily straighten your right leg. And inhale, raise the toes of your right foot. Pull it up towards your head. And exhale, take your right foot and stretch it forward and down. Press all 5 toes down. Notice the arch of your right foot. Then inhale, raise your toes up, stretch the back of your calf. And exhale, reach through the toes of your right foot as you place your foot back down really firmly. Notice the arch rising up. One more time, inhale, raise the toes of your right foot. And exhale, glide that forward, bend your right knee so you're in your basic lunge. And I want the toes to be active here so you can sense the arch of your right foot not falling to pieces as you rise up to your crescent lunge. And holding steady, press into the toes of both feet. So not just the front foot, but on the back foot. Press your toes down. So if you have very flexible toes, sometimes you can end up just like being at the end of your flexibility, hanging out there. This morning, press the toes down. If you have very flexible ankles, sometimes people just reach back into their ankle flexibility. Instead, lift your heels slightly up. So you're using the mechanism of your foot. It's not just passive, the left foot. And then let's exhale. Float your arms wide. Come forward. Touch the two blocks. And inhale, step forward to one-footed Uttanasana. So the left leg goes out behind you, about horizontal to the floor. And keeping your right arch lifted, glide your left foot down to land next to your right foot. And exhale to bow towards both legs. Now come up, Urdhva Hastasana. And exhale, hands to your heart. Spend a few moments noticing the difference in your right leg to your left leg. Even the difference from one foot to the other. Now we're going to repeat the sequence. So inhale, Urdhva Hastasana, and tippy toe. Then exhale, come down to chair pose so that your heels are arriving at the bottom of your exhale in the full expression of your chair pose. Inhale, float up. And exhale, Uttanasana. Press your toes down, raise your arches up. Inhale, glide forward. Exhale, right toes back. And straighten your left leg. And take a look at your left foot as you inhale, lift the toes of your left foot up. Say hello to your calf muscles. Then exhale, stretch through the toes of your left foot, press it down. Watch the arch come up. Inhale, glide your toes up. Exhale, lengthen out through your left foot, each toe pressing down with its own robustness. One more time, inhale to come up with your toes. And exhale to glide forward and down, bend your left knee. So you're going to put more weight into your foot than you just had, but keep the arch equally lifted. And inhale, crescent lunge. And see if you might hold steady using the strength and agility of both feet. Can you close your eyes? Keep the breath consistent, so when you close your eyes, it's not only that your feet are a part of your balance, but so is your breath. And the Ujjayi breath is really helpful for balance because of its influence at your pelvic floor and upwards into your throat. And in the throat we have stress receptors. And keep those stress receptors more calm with the Ujjayi breath. Now we're going to exhale, take the arms wide. If you'd like, you can open your eyes. Otherwise, you can practice this journey from muscle memory. Touch the two blocks. Now use them firmly and step backwards. Downward dog pose. And then inhale forward to plank pose. Roll over your toes to come to plank pose. Use them like you're tippy-toeing. Exhale, reach high, downward facing dog pose. Inhale to plank. Exhale to dog.
One more time, inhale to plank pose.
Exhale, downward facing dog pose.
Now with your awkward foot, please step forward. And then second foot, please step forward. And enjoy Uttanasana. Now let's plan on this. It's a little bit tricky, not beyond your capacity. We're going to rise up to Urdhva Hastasana and also do it on the toes. So inhale, sweep your arms wide.
Begin to raise your heels. Try to get to the high point of your tippy toe and the high point of your inhale and arms all together. And then exhale, heels down, hands to your heart, arriving at the same moment. Now with these two blocks, let's place them on the flat setting, like this. And turn them, how am I going to show you this? Like this, yeah, okay, like this. And step your right foot so that what you have is the corner of the block right here, which I hope your block is a firm styrofoam and not like a sharp wooden block. You're going to have the edge of the block, the little pointy part right there, under this acupuncture point called kidney 1. So here's the mount of the toe, here's the other toes, and you place the block just at the front of your arch there and step up onto it. And do the same for the other foot. And see if you can let your toes kind of melt over the block like Salvador Dali's painting, which I think was called, oops, forgot the name of it. It's when he painted the clock melting over the landscape. Maybe it was called The Illusion of Time or something like that. So when you're pressing, your feet are on the blocks firmly, but the toes are melting forward, and then you can just gently press your feet down into the corners of those blocks. And it might help to kind of gently press the right one, and then gently press the left one. Do it slowly. Like, oh my God, did you know it was tender there? Maybe you didn't know. How did that happen? This is the first point on your kidney meridian in acupuncture, Chinese medicine. And they named this point bubbling spring. So what I understand about that from my own experience of the treatments is it's where the qi would bubble up from the earth like a spring. So this, in this case, the kidney qi rising from the center of the foot right there. Now let's see if we can do chair pose with your feet on these blocks. So bend your knees. We have the corners of the block set, so I hope your knees and shins are hip distance apart. Stretch the toes forward. And then as you root down into your feet, but keep the toes forward, rise up from chair to upward hands pose. And then lowering both arms. Nice job. Thank you for exploring. Let's step backwards and notice how your feet feel when you come back to quote-unquote solid ground. But also, how does the bubbling spring feel under each of your feet? Now you're doing so well. I'm going to ask you to take this rolled blanket one more time, and we're going to do a standing pose with this blanket rolled firmly under your feet. So you're it's kind of like you're in the little workshop of Sarah Joy's mind about yoga. Like you know how they talk about those weird scientists in their labs? It's kind of like that. Okay, so you put the blanket like this. You're going to want your blocks. You don't know quite where to put your blocks yet, but let's make a little guess. I'll do this. And you're going to be stepping, let's put the right foot on the blanket. So right foot on the blanket, so you can see my heel is on the floor right here, but my foot goes over the blanket, and my toes can kind of hug over the blanket, or they can stretch up and forward. And we'll do this. Step your left foot back. You can heel toe it back if you need to. Okay, so this stride is familiar, kind of like Warrior Two. Please sweep your arms wide. Okay, and then keeping your right heel grounded, bend your right knee. And notice that with the heel down and the toes up, there is a little change right here at the top of your femur. So what's happening with your heel is affecting your hip. Now tip your pelvis, place your right hand. You can decide if you want that to be higher or lower. And sweep your left arm past your left ear. And I want you to be comfortable enough to play with this here. So press into your left heel and your left toes for sure. Reach through your left arm, make that dynamic. But place most of your focus on what happens when you root your right heel and raise the toes of your right foot. What happens in your right hip, in your inner thigh, in your right hamstring, in your mind? And can you breathe through all of that? And include in your awareness your left hip now, and your left butt should also be strong. Press into your left heel from the back of your left hip. And then let's breathe in. And when you next exhale, use your left low belly when you rise up to raise your torso from the strength you have on the left low belly. Okay, relax your arms and go heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, and then right foot to mountain pose. And pause to check things out there. Maybe the right foot feels like a bubbling spring. I'm just smiling at seeing you. Okay, so let's take, for me, the blanket goes to the other side. You can keep yours and just turn about. And place your left foot up on the blanket. So your heel's going to be on the floor and the toes will be lifted. And walk the right foot back. There you are. Just check that you're heel to heel for me, please, here. So it could be a little bit wider left to right, but please don't line up heel to arch. And then bend your left knee. And as you come down, decide how high you want this to be. Good. Everybody makes their own decision. Yep. Even how far back your right foot goes is your decision. But check and see you've got a sense of your capacity here. Sweep your right arm past your right ear. Okay, so press into your left heel. Raise the toes of your left foot. Stretch them like they're going to have a little lift off. Like each toe is an airplane. Notice what happens in your left hip as you position your left foot like this. Tone the back of your left hip and pelvis. And then reach from your right hip, especially the back of your hip, but also the outer right hip, down into your right heel. And smile at your body making these efforts. Do one more inhalation. And now using your right low belly, exhale, rise up. Good. Relax your arms. And we go heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, and then step your left foot to meet your right foot. Hopefully you have two bubbling springs. Okay, now let's go back to the first side, please. Okay, now we're going to play with the front foot and the back foot. So place your heel, step back. You can also go back incrementally, heel toe, heel toe. Set up your blocks. You can choose lower or higher. Inhale, sweep your arms wide. Raise the toes of your right foot. Press down into your right heel, even to start here. Notice how the inner thigh or the outer thigh responds when you root your right heel down. And then tip your pelvis. Place your right hand. Reach with your left hand, left arm. And keeping everything steady. And I want your toes on the right foot to stay lifted, please. And you're going to inhale and pick up the heel of your left foot. Make this pose longer. And see to what extent you can now reach your left heel back to the floor without giving up this perceived extra length you just made when you tippy-toed. And so do it again. Inhale, raise your left heel. And keeping that reach, exhale, lower your left heel down slowly, slowly. Keep your right heel steady, right inner thigh steady, right outer hip steady. And now turn to open towards the sky. And again, see yourself making these efforts right now, like your benevolent fairy godparent person. Here you are. This is not an easy practice. So see the courage you have in action right now. And use your exhale to root both heels, tone your left low belly, and rise up. Relax your arms and go heel toe, and then mountain pose. And you might feel like a little bit asymmetrical or crooked. Now the other side. You can turn around simply. I'm going to move my blanket so I can keep looking towards you. Okay, left foot up. And step your right foot back. Good. Sweep your arms wide. Bend your left knee. Just notice here when you press into your left heel, what happens to your left inner thigh? And then you're going to start tipping your pelvis to place your left hand. Sweep your right arm past your right ear. And there you are. Okay. Now with the left heel grounded and your toes reaching, on your next inhale, raise the heel of your right foot. You're going to feel unstable, so does everybody else. So don't think about yourself in different ways. Don't let that in. But now can you root from your right hip, even from your right low belly, back into your right heel. And try that again. Inhale, raise your right heel. The pose will seem to get longer. And try to keep that length as you take your right heel back down to the floor. Good. Yeah, and then turn to open towards the sky. And pressing with your left heel, keep the left outer hip toned, left sitting bone toned. And then exhale, root down to rise up. Relax both arms. And let's go heel, toe, heel, toe, heel, toe. Step your left foot next to your right. May your feet be bubbling with energy. And then let's come down with these yoga props. Okay, so you have two blankets. I'm going to suggest that we keep this one rolled since we have it rolled. Let's take this one in the long fold. And lay this one down your mat, like this. And take your rolled blanket and place it on top. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we'll be lying on this blanket. So the lumbar spine will begin here, the rest of your spine, your head somewhere here. Your sacrum will be here, and those two blocks are going to support the sacrum using this kind of diamond shape like this for the two blocks. Okay, so come over. And when you lie backwards, at first when you lie down, your hips are touching nothing. So my blanket ends right here. I'll put my pink and my blue distinct. That's where the blanket ends, is right where the pink shirt ends and becomes the blue yoga tights. And that's the top of my sacrum. And then place your blocks so the triangle point is at the tailbone. So that's like this, under here. And the blocks are not going to be touching the sacrum, but they're just to the sides of the sacrum. Bring your head to center. Take the arms out and palms face up. And bring your mind down into your sacrum. And though you're quite supported right now, I hope you feel very supported. I'd like you to imagine the sacrum between those two blocks kind of descending very slightly, as if the sacrum were kind of levitating right there. It's not going to reach the ground, but it's just sort of hovering between the two blocks. And tone your low belly and bring only your right knee up and down. We're going to do this several times. When you raise your right knee up towards your chest, you are going to feel where the block is massaging the side of your sacrum. You can touch the toes of your right foot really lightly down, stepping slightly out past your left foot. And then bring your right knee up again. And please keep the lower belly toned so that your pelvis is stable and you're moving your leg. Touch a little farther out if you can. And bring your right knee back in. And again, a little farther out. If possible, you go to the back of your heel. Touch that down. Keep the pelvis stable. And roll your right knee up. And do that one more time. Going out. Perhaps you touch the back of your heel. Keeping the pelvis toned and stable. Bring your right knee up and cross your right knee over your right ankle over your left knee, excuse me. So right ankle on your left knee. And then you're going to be fanning the right knee out and in. And out. And in. And yes, the blanket has a soft cushy and the block is firm. And so that beveled edge of the block might feel like a massage to you alongside your sacrum. And open out one more time. And then place your right foot down. And keeping the pelvis stable, we'll do the other side. So what you do is, it's not that you're moving the pelvis, you really are just moving your femur, which is capable of moving without distorting the pelvis. So left knee in, left toes down. And just incrementally, when you touch the left foot down, you go a little farther and a little farther, and you're doing that process lightly down with the toes, up, with your knee. And you just take your time. And we'll go a little farther now, and you might be someone who could reach to the back of your left heel. That might be too far for you if the pelvis becomes unstable. And the next time you bring your left knee up, go ahead and cross your ankle, left ankle over your right knee. And we're going to fan out and in and out and in. And yes, I expect it's going to be tender for some of you. And maybe you're even getting information about your body that you didn't know. Maybe you knew it, but it's not in your daily awareness. Some imbalance that you have. Thank you for giving it a go. And one more time, press out. At the rhythm that you're working at, press out with your left knee. And then bring your left knee and left foot off and down to where you began. Now stretch both legs out straight. And let them be limp for a moment. Right, so what may happen because of where the blocks are placed, you can lift your head and check and see, like your feet. If sometimes in Shavasana one foot turns out a lot, right now they might be symmetrical. And that's possible because of where the blocks are placed. So you look at them and see. And then I'm going to ask you to, you could decide to stay in this position for Shavasana if you wanted to, but some of you will find that that becomes disorienting in Shavasana after a short bit. So you could put the blocks aside and roll your pelvis down and just take notice how willing is your lower back to allow the pelvis to drop down right there. Yeah, and then you can scooch a tiny bit forward of the blanket so that you can put the soles of the feet together, the knees get support, and then raise your head because it's also going to be a support to your spine. If you curl the blanket under your head so that your gaze is now down, the gaze down towards the heart flows down towards the abdomen. Here in the abdomen, we're letting the resources be directed to this pelvic center, renewing your vitality. You can close your eyes, and maybe you even prefer to rest your hands on your lower belly. Let's imagine that your body is like the hourglass with the sand in it. And we just spent this last time sort of exploring different aspects, maybe some uncertainties there, maybe some greater vitality or effervescence. And now we're going to turn that hourglass and let one grain of sand at a time drop down. And let's imagine that that is happening at the pelvis so that your hips and your sacrum are going to become the most grounded part of this pose. Allow your breath to really just very gently come and go as it takes care of you. You may keep your gaze down in the pelvis, observing The breath simply coming and going. Knowing there is no solid thing onto which we can hold. We have always had an experience of fundamental groundlessness. And sense how you might consider that perspective in this moment. So no clutching, no clinging, no clenching. Allow the sand to drop through the hourglass, one grain of sand at a time. The pelvis might get heavier, and your mind more grounded, even with this perspective. Continue to allow the process, welcoming the sand to drop through the hourglass, like the mind not holding on to any one grain of sand. So allowing your mind to be heavy like this, one grain of sand at a time. Let the inner belly relax a few degrees more. You can just lightly observe now a slightly deeper breath in the belly. And gently wiggle your fingers, maybe your toes. Fold your knees up to center. And then roll downhill to your right side to rest there for a few moments, please. Asatoma satgamaya tamasoma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Use both hands to bring yourself back up to sitting. When you come up to sit, just establish the seat. The asana means to take your seat, actually. Establish the seat that you can feel yourself in. There's no solid thing onto which we can hold, and there never has been. We aren't facing that teachings uniquely as a species. We may be facing uncertainties that we hadn't anticipated, but there was never a solid thing for humans to hold on to, as according to the teachings. And yet, you can sense something called like a center or a place of grounding or some cohesiveness that your mind, body, spirit come together with a sense of interconnection with everything that is. Simultaneously, no solid thing on which we can hold. Please bring your hands together at your heart, and we'll close with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. First Shanti is may there be peace within. Second Shanti, peace amongst us, and then peace in all the realms. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti Om. Om Shanti Om. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. I am so glad to practice with you in this way. Thank you. I will come up to see you more closely to the camera. Let's see. Can I do that? Kind of. Okay, a little bit. You're over here. No, you're actually over here for me.